Strahd, episode 5 might have been one of the most fun sessions of Dungeons and Dragons I've ever ran. Oh my god, it was crazy. And I did not see a session like this coming. I don't know. The group's all clicking together now, vibing. I'm giving them enough. I feel like this is a random thought of just self improvement as a dungeon master is letting my players take the reins more. I had a goal this campaign to talk less. Just let the players talk more and kind of let them kind of do stuff and let them just lead and go and go. And there's so many times where I was like, they were just going and doing stuff. So it was great. Crazy curveballs, absolutely a crazy ending. The most efficient, insane. So anyway, um, this is where I break down my home game, Curse of Strahd, where episode 5, all that kind of stuff. If you want to see the live plays, I actually do now have all of the live plays available to my patrons on Patreon. It's linked down in the description as well. If you want to see the live play footage there, it's a super home game. You can see the whole setup and everything for it. And eventually I do want to turn these and take these, and I'll be posting these on the main channel and all those other things in the future campaigns. But right now I'm doing a test run for my patrons. So there's that. And man, oh man, here's the breakdown. So how I always start these things off is I show you guys this. Oh, that's not this. There we go. This was the start of the session. The session started off with the ending at the last. So if you saw last episode, I didn't like the way it ended. Like the ending, there was a bad taste in my mouth of how I ran off Strahd at the end there, where Strahd came to the funeral and he was like, yeah, and he made an appearance and stuff, and then he left. And I was like, man, it just didn't really have a punch. So I inserted this scene in there to try and give that extra bit of a punch, where I had this whole scene, and you can see the green is the flavor text, and now Strahd is trying to burn the world down around Irina, right? To have Irina fall into his arms out of fear, then he's the only one that can protect her with the world that's burning down around her. So I set the stage. There's a whole bunch of undead in the center of the courtyard as they're leaving the cemetery. Behind them, there's wolves that are going to be chasing after them, and it was a skill challenge. 1-round skill challenge. You can actually see the whole round skill challenge right here if you wanted to kind of just soak that in. Basically, how I was going to do is everyone had one check. Everyone had one check to say what they were doing to try and do something in this way. What is your character doing right now? And then if you had more overall successes than failures, then that would be a success. You beat the 1-round skill challenge. Super simple. If there's more overall failures, something bad happens, and we go again. And we keep going until you get a failure. That was kind of the scary looming thing over the top of it. And I don't know, I had all the things that Irina was going to get attacked, some of the players were going to get bit by zombies, etc., right? So that was kind of the whole stage setup, but damn, did they kill it. They absolutely killed it. The paladin and the cleric ran forward and did all their divine stuff in the center of the thing. The fires, all this. I set the stage, and one thing you want to do with a 1-round skill challenge or skill challenge in general is give them enough tools. I had a building that was on fire. I had wolves. I had zombies. I had husky. There was a bird that was kind of crowing after them. We'll see if they keep remembering that one. But yeah, so they come in and they bring the flames down. He pulls the flames off the building to go into the zombies, and then the paladin kind of accentuates off of that. 2 huge successes there. Crazy. The wolves start to come and go attack the rest of the group. The barbarian turns around, starts smashing those wolves. Cool. The rogue starts throwing daggers at the wolves, and they all rolled higher than an 18 on all their checks. So that's 4 successes, and it comes down to the last. The last player who it was like a funny thing at this point. It didn't matter, like they already won, right? They already have 4 successes. Even if he fails, they still overall win. So he's like, you know what, I'm just gonna cheer him on, and he did some bardic inspiration stuff, and he revealed one of the bonus level up perks I'd given him, which is a cool thing. He as a player now has 4 dungeon master inspiration dice that he can give out to players on top of his bardic inspiration dice. That was another cool thing he gives out for cool moments at the table. It's a longer story, but I'm probably gonna make a video about it because I really do like the way it ties into inspiration, dungeon master, and bard in the same. Anyway, so cool moment, big huge success, absolutely massive slaying of all the zombies in the city. So not only did they cure the zombie blight pool in the last episode, they also now have cleansed the city of actual the zombie infestation in the first place. So it's absolutely crazy. They go back, and then I basically I was planning, as you see here on my agenda right here, I was planning for them to have downtime. I thought this session was going to be a downtime session. Never have I been more wrong. Never have I been more wrong. There's all these things they could do during downtime, all these different stuff. And they also had they have some meat fixation where they had the pies. They've been eating pies like crazy and all this stuff. So the stage is set basically where I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to go into some downtime. We're going to have about 3 days of downtime. Everybody gets 2 things that they want to do. Just say what you want to do, and we may or may not roll for it, and we could role play the scenes. We could not. We could fast forward through it. Just kind of depends. Whatever you want to say you're going to do. I said, but we do have a problem. All of you have some pie problems going on. Everybody make a wisdom saving throw. So there's this funny thing where they all have smashed on these pies, and they have now seen that people be massively addicted to these pies. So, that was a big problem for the group. So then, through some absolutely hilarious role play, it was, I don't know if I've laughed this hard in a session where the rogue player who had the most level of addiction, he has the highest level of, had a whole addiction system for how addicted he was to these things. He had the highest of the group. He goes to the strongest person in the group, the barbarian, and he's like, hey, look, I need you to take these pies. And I don't think I can. And as soon as she tries to take him, he's like, I fight him for her. So he tried because he couldn't resist to not take the pies, but he was trying to get rid of the pies. So it was this really, and then they had a strength contest, and it was hilarious of them just trying to want pies, but no, they shouldn't have pies. And it was a whole thing. It was amazing. I loved it. It was great. And then they woke up the next morning, and I had another round of checks to see for the whole pie. What do you want to call it? Cleansing process to try and get off of the addiction to these pies. And 3 of the players failed the roll. 2 of the players didn't. So then now 2 players are trying to lead the way to not have them be addicted to pies, and the other ones are going to go look for pies. So they end up all going on a search looking for pies, right? And 2 of the players in the group are trying to not find the pie lady, and the other 3 are trying to find it. So I was like, you know what? Everybody make a survival check. Whoever wins gets to choose if you wanted to find the pies or not. So if you're team pie or team no pie. So funny little moment. And then the player that's the most addicted to the pies, the rogue, he rolled the highest and sure enough found the pies. And so then they didn't realize this, though. They didn't realize this, but I had a pie trigger here in my Dungeon Master binder here. Village of Barovia. There's a little this is there we go. Dream Sailing Pastries. There's a little scene here where she's kidnapping a small boy away from 2 parents. And that's strange. Wait a second. So they found her, but she was doing some suspicious activities, and there was a whole stare down, and they threw down and they fought her. The long story short on that, they really cornered her. They're like, no, what are you doing? What are you doing here? And she let the boy go, and they weren't buying her story about the orphanage, and they weren't buying anything, and they threw down with a night hag who she revealed herself, and I had this whole thing. This fight, it was pretty much purely improvised on my part here. So there's a hag stat block. This is the hag stat block. I did not think they were going to be I did not think they were going to be fighting this hag right off the bat. I have the little stat block right here. This is just a base normal night hag stat block. I was not prepared to think that they were going to fight her. I just wait, what? So I just glanced at the stat block, and I on the fly come up with a bunch of different abilities that she had that would be cool. It was a theater of the mind fight. Basically, she had a pie cart, right? And then they were all standing around the pie cart, and she night shifted phase, whatever, etherealness, right? Went into the ethereal plane and went away from them. And then I had to give her a reaction of a green ray of enfeeblement to kind of counteract the barbarian running at her. She had some ability that she shot her own pie cart and exploded it with all the nasty poison damage of the ichor and nasty goop from all the center of it. So she had all these different things that I was just rolling with, and it ended up turning into a really cool fight. They're doing a bunch of cool stuff with it. And then in one big final move, I was evaluating when she was going to leave, and I was like, all right, probably she's going to leave on the next turn. She's getting a little low. But then she got bursted down by the paladin, who came over and blew a divine smite into this whole thing. Night hags are fiends. That counts towards the divine smite extra damage, and she dealt just enough. And I was like, wow, I gotta respect it. Got the killing blow, and they killed the hag. I was totally gonna leave. It was one of those moments where I was like, Yeah, they got me. No, they got me. Like absolute props and respect. She was leaving next turn. She was next in initiative order. She was gone. The paladin came in and got the kill. So done. So that was super cool to see them actually kill the hag. I thought she was gonna like leave and escape and go off to the windmill, and they'd see her again later. But she does have two sisters there at that windmill, so that will be something. But so now that was a crazy epic win for them. And then I had another little moment in the middle of all this. I was like, you know what? Anytime that players like go above and beyond, they absolutely kill it. I'm like, wow, like I think the pie sickness is just gone. In my head, originally I was like, yeah, that's like you're still addicted to pies. It's the pies, you're addicted to the pies. But then as soon as they killed her, I was like, you know what? I think the curse is lifted. I think she is the source of that evil, right? And the draw and the addiction and all that kind of stuff. And then she's dead. It's gone, and it's props and an extra reward to the players. So now that they're no longer addicted, they have clear minds and stuff now. They're like, wow, all right, cool. And I think that was a much bigger and better reward and everything like that. And then they saw the family, the boy that they saved, and super cool, right? And then I was like, now we shifted into a little bit of downtime. And then everybody said kind of like what they were doing. One of the players wanted to go look around for some investigation on these missing people and stuff. They rolled a natural 20, one of the many of the session. And then I basically gave the nugget that I had given. I had given this nugget, let me show you here, in the Mad Mary's house. Mad Mary has some sort of like, she's the eyewitness of an abduction, right? I knew there was Mad Mary was an eyewitness to an abduction. But whenever this player rolled a natural 20, they had also talked to some other people in town. And now with this curse and cure lifted, they stumbled across some people that were like, hey, actually, I remember you. Thanks for talking to me before. Like he's walking around town kind of asking people. He's like, yeah, we did see some people. Somebody was dragging somebody up the road towards the church. And that kind of pointed some suspicion towards the church. I didn't say towards the church. I just said up this road. And then they put together the churches on that road. And then in a separate section of downtime, the paladin and the cleric were going to go to the church and pray to Belanos and all this kind of, and they had completely pure intentions to do that. So they go to the church, and then the player that had said, hey, would I have, like, can we cross paths here? I was like, I totally think that y'all could cross paths here. So we ran off the whole scene at the church and everything, and then the player goes over to, or they kind of meet up together, and they're like, hey, look, like there were some people, and so they start putting some things together. And the father of the church, the main priest, he said, like, don't go into any here. And I purposely role played them up real awkward and real kind of sketchy. And then they were like looking around, poking around. They weren't able to find any trapdoors, but they definitely found some interesting sketchy stuff. Left to go get the rest of the group. Thank God, because that would have been real rough for the other two if they just got left out. That would have sucked. So then they leave and everything to go back and get the rest of the group. And they're like, you know what? We need to all kind of come together and go back to the church. They went to the church and they find out and they confront the father. And they have some really crazy, intimidation / persuasion / talking to him with everything, appealing to the God section of like they worship the same God, Sol and Belanos and all the player characters, and this had a similar connection in that way. Anyway, he basically confessed that his son is he's keeping his son alive and he is feeding people to his son. And he completely came clean about the whole thing, and he's downstairs. And now starts a very, very interesting roller coaster of interactions. Basically, this Father Donovan is keeping his son, who is now a vampire spawn, which is like a weaker, smaller, baby vampire, weaker vampire, whatever. And he's down, trapped in the basement, and his father would bring him victims to feed and stay alive over a long period of time now. And then the players come down, and the first interaction they have is Finian, the cleric, tries to heal heal the vampire, and he gets bitten, right? They had a little contest thing. He gets bitten and he stands his ground, or sorry, Finian, she stands her ground. Strong gnome cleric, not gnome cleric, halfling cleric. Anyway, super short. Anyway, so there's this really interesting moment where Finian gets bit. The cleric gets bit and stands her ground and wants to help. And I was like, what? And then so there's this really, and he's just face to face with the vampire wanting to help. And I was like, wow, this is an interesting moment. And then the cleric used a bonus level up perk of a baby version of Divine Intervention and wanted to use Divine Intervention in this way. Now, granted, you have a 3% chance of having this happen. So I was like, well, okay, roll your percentile and see if that did not happen. And in that moment, I ruled that to be like the flash of light singes and burns the cheeks up. No damage or whatever. But the vampire reels back and he rips his chains off the wall as he's like, no. And then it starts, boom, there's the fight starting. Because I wasn't going to have this whole thing be this like chained up vampire, and then it was been like he's going to try and escape. He's going to try and escape. That was the trigger enough to it. There was some other talking and role play going on around that time, and I was like, all right, we got to throw down now. And he goes, we all roll initiative. I natural 20 my initiative, and I'm getting the heck out of there. I use his full movement to go from the back of the thing to try and get out of there, and then in a really interesting move, one of the players who's at the top of the steps, on their turn, they leave the room, shut the door, and lock the door. And I was like, what? Like I was out of there. I was out of there. I was gone. And then I used the legendary action to try and get out, like try and go to the door and try and get out. And we had a strength contest. He beat me by 1, so I'm still trapped in there. I was like, oh wow, this is a full thing, huh? And then now everybody's kind of scrambling. They're going to attack him. Now they're attacking him. Now it's a fight. And here comes where the more roller coaster happens. So to try and even just do a quick play-by-play, basically I'm trying to leave. I'm trying to get this guy out of here. I see that that's not going to be as easy. The bard starts doing some stuff to reduce my checks towards the door. They're starting to attack me now. So I'm like, okay. I have to change the plan. So I leap onto the ceiling, jump across the room, and tackle the cleric, right? The person that just did the whole healing cleansing thing. Pounce on the top of him, make all these attacks, go for it, do everything I can to take out the cleric, knock the cleric out unconscious. And then I had an interesting moment. I was like, oh wow, I think I can spice this up a little bit. What would Doru do in this moment? He's trying to get out. They've blocked the door. They're attacking him. Unconscious, unconscious, near dead Finian. And I put my hand on her throat, dug my claws deep into her throat and said, let her go. Or let her go. Opposite of that. Let me go or she dies. And now is a really interesting moment at the table. The player that's outside the room, the character that like went outside and locked the door, they have to decide if they're going to open the door. Everybody else has to figure out how they're going to stop this from happening. And there's this, it looked bad. It looked real bad. And he was going to, I was fully going to make his attacks and he was going to kill her if he didn't get let out. And it looked like they weren't budging because if he gets loose, he's loose on the city and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, wow, this could be real bad. Finian might die here. And then, which also is just always a checkbox of like, all right, this shit's hitting the fan. This is getting real, right? The bard has goes and does a suggestion, and I natural 1 on the save for it. He does some great role play as far as to set it up and everything. I had a natural 1 where he got into the head of Doru and stopped him in his tracks. The bard, the cleric, and the paladin are all trying to get through to Doru. They're trying to get through this guy. Stop. We can try and help you. Maybe we can help you. We can figure this out. We can try and cleanse the whatever. And they were making progress on it. I was making rolls for him in front of the board, and he was starting to believe them. And then they were spending entire turns towards doing this whole thing. They were like just talking to him. The cleric at one point took an entire turn to just talk to him, like, we can help you. And then the paladin goes over and talks, and they have this whole thing like, can we though? Like, but we should try. We don't know if we can, but we can sure try. And the genuineness and the relentlessness of them wanting to help, I was like, wow, they might calm him down off this ledge. And what a great moment here. These 3 players are coming together to really turn this around, right? Now, one thing I haven't told you about who's been doing this whole time is the barbarian. The barbarian Lou has just been smashing away at this vampire every time. Barbarian comes up, bang, bang, and he's like, and she just keeps smashing at him. And the rogue, who was the one who got out of the room, snuck back into the room in the window of time where he could get back into the room without the vampires noticing that he got back in there. He natural 20 to stealth check as well. There's lots of really clutch natural 20s in this session. Maybe that's why I was so crazy. I don't know. And then he readies an action to where he said this a while ago before all this pleading and bartering happened. He holding an action to where if anyone enters melee, he's going to throw the dagger. And then this is all of this happened as far as the pleading. We can help you. Lou's next up in initiative, and then Doru. So after this whole thing, I was like, all right, but it is your turn, Lou. And Lou's like, I attack him. It was one of those moments at the table where I was like, oh no. And my heart broke a little bit. And I was like, oh no, like I want to be able to protect like the spirit of the game and what's going on and all this stuff. And like they really had this whole thing they were going with. These three players were really coming together and they made it happen. They rolled one of them, I forgot another one, another natural 20 to convince Doru to listen to them and do it. Another natural, I was like, oh my God, they are going to try and save Doru. This is crazy. But then the barbarian comes in and goes for the smackdown and does a big, huge smash and swing, right? So now there's this moment. I was like, oh my gosh, this player just now we're trolling and there's in this whole thing. But I was like, you know what? Hold up. This is what her character would do. This is what the thing. I know I have some this like really interesting vision. These other players, but damn it, I gotta let players be players. I'm not gonna try and be like, no, you can't. No, you know what I'm saying? So went with it, go with it, let the players do it. And she had full Lou was just smash mode. She doesn't, what are they talking, stop it, boom. And so she just smashes him, and in a beautiful moment she smashes him, and the sneak attack from the rogue goes off. They both deal damage. The damage was close enough, and in that moment I was like, now I'll say this the damage was not enough to kill. I think he was about 8 health short, like from actually being the killing blow. But this is where, as a dungeon master, you have this moment in the game: is what's happening right now. Is 8 health worth this absolutely monumental story moment that's happening right now? And my answer to that was no. And the simple reason where I feel absolute confidence in this is those 3 players, the 3 players that were trying to heal him and help him, had completely lowered his guard. He was absolutely open and willing to be helped. He knocked at one point. Doru knocked down his own father, and he almost so he had this like reflection on himself. He's looking at his hands in horror and like realizing the monster he's become, and he's doing like he had this whole moment. Those 3 players, those 3 characters, lowered his defenses down entirely, and I think that's easily worth 8 health. You know what I'm saying? So Sumi, if the book said by he was 8 health off of actually dying, I think he would have been absolutely leveled by that because his guard was down. And in D&D, if you have 80 hit points and your guard is completely down, you don't have 80 hit points. You are very, very much vulnerable. And if you want to say, I assigned the vulnerability condition to him, then sure. Either way, absolutely crazy moment at the table, because then they kill him. And the 2 of them, right after he just opens himself, I recap the whole thing, right after they just smack him and kill him. So, yeah. Didn't see that one coming, and that's where we ended the session off on a crazy note what's going on. They have gone into the city, they've cleansed the well, they're doing all these things. They are absolutely destroying, well, I guess the opposite of that. They're absolutely saving this little village of Barovia in some big ways. They've killed a hag now, they've killed a vampire now. Man, we gotta see what's going on with them, and maybe I gotta get them a slice of humble pie. Another pie joke, I guess, in there earlier, but we'll see what happens now. So where my head's at now, going into the next session, is we're actually gonna have downtime. We're gonna have a downtime session and see how that whole thing goes. I also gave them a little bit of a foreshadow into where's my little events up here? There we go. I gave them the Mad as Eva dream vision to kind of show them the what's going on with this the Vistani camp, and some visions and dreams and the future storytellings of what's going on with their fortune tellings, right? So we'll see how that goes, and I probably see us next session wrapping up the village of Barovia, getting some cool magic items and rewards from all the great amazing stuff they've done there, have a nice little breather of a downtime, and then head off of Barovia on into the sunset. So wow, what a crazy session. So stay creative, think outside the box.